Hello, everyone, and welcome for the PetroNile Academy online session about hazard communication. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Muddathir Hamdan. I'm a petroleum exploration engineer, graduated from Salam University, and I will be the moderator for today's session. Our session is going to be delivered by special and knowledgeable guest, HSE professional trainer, Mr. Sahal Alamin. Before we start, just a brief point about our instructor. Mr. Alamin holds his bachelor degree in chemistry from Khartoum University. He has more than 16 years of work experience in QHSE. He worked as a quality control chemist in MIC Dammam from 2003 to 2008. He also worked as a deputy laboratory manager and safety coordinator in Al Bassam group of companies during the period 2008 to 2010. He worked also as a QHSE manager in Tayat al-Sharq used oil recycling factory from 2010 to 2020. Presently, he is working as a head of HSE training department in SEEP Institute, Dammam. Just a quick reminder, questions and comments will be at the end of this online presentation. Mr. Al-Amin, we are so pleased to have you today. And now the mic is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. It is my pleasure to have this session with you this night about the hazard communication, which is regarding how to deal safely with chemical materials in the workplace. We are going to have a quick presentation, outlines for dealing safely with chemicals in the workplace. Actually, it is a very interesting topic, and it will take a very long time to cover all aspects of this topic, but we will try to cover the outlines and hope that in coming occasions we can also have another sessions. But today we'll try to cover only the outlines. Okay, so let us start. Okay. This session, as you know, will be our regard hazard communication, how to deal safely with chemical material in the workplace. The lesson objectives to identify employers' responsibility under the HCS hazard communication standard, including training requirements, also to identify components of a hazard communication program, describe requirements of a different type of hazard communication labels, locate pertinent information about chemicals on labels, including other forms of hazard communication to ensure right to understand provision of GHS requirements. GHS is stand for Global Harmonized System. Okay, we'll come to these things in detail during our session. To provide information required to work safely with chemicals, to increase also knowledge of hazardous chemical in the workplace, also to reduce the number and severity of accidents, injuries, and illness resulting from chemicals, and to increase understanding of protective measures required by exposure to hazardous chemicals. Okay, so mainly the session will be around concern to how to deal safely with chemicals on the workplace and to prevent injuries and diseases. Chemicals have become an important element of almost every aspect of modern life. All of these chemicals, from cleaning fluids to pharmaceutical, pesticide, paints, are produced in workplaces and may be used in workplaces downstream. So the manufacturers of these chemicals has to put certain control measures to protect their employees, and companies also are using this kind of chemicals. They have to have a set of control measures to deal safely with these chemicals. We will go through these sets of control measures. Chemical HAZCOM is stand for hazard communication. HAZCOM, our training today is hazard communication. It's sometimes it's called HAZCOM. HAZCOM is brief for hazard communication. That means to communicate the information regarding the hazardous chemical to employees, so they know what kind of risk associated with the using of these materials. So this information should be communicated from the employer to their employees. Clear? So that's why it's called hazard communication program. So it is very effective tool to control the risk associated with using chemicals in the workplace. HCCS and GHS, as we told that, it is acronym of Hazard Communication Standard, and GHS is Global Harmonized System. Hazard Communication Standard is an OSHA standard. Okay, Hazard Communication Standard is an OSHA standard telling how to deal safely with chemicals, and GHS is Global Harmonized System issued by ILO. ILO is international corporation. It's related to United Nations. Okay, ILO is International Labor Organization, is one of UN organization. It sets certain standard for standardization for the pictograms and labeling of chemicals all over the world. So the ILO or the UN attempts to standardize the labels and identification of hazardous chemical all over the world, because before there's many standards. There's European standard, there's American standard, there's British standard. The pictograms are differ from here to here. So the United Nations in 2015 standardized all these standards in one standard called GHS. So HCCS is Hazardous Communication Standard. In a line with GHS standard, save lives approximately 43 per year deaths. Before there are many deaths, 43 per year deaths saved this number of deaths per year, and approximately around 585 injuries and illness also saved from the previous numbers after applying this standard. Okay, so by adopting this standard also, money saved around 475.2 million in increased productivity, also saving cost around 32.2 million. So there's saving in cost, and also there's saving in lives, which is the main core of safety discipline. The main core of safety discipline is to save lives and company properties, and so which is money. Okay, so by adopting these standards, we save lives, 43 per year death and illness and injuries, and also cost for many costs of accidents. So accidents are costing money. We know that. Everybody knows that accidents are costing money. So there are 7 measures elements in the GHS aligned hazard communication standard. Okay, we have 7 elements which are clearly stated in these pictures. 16 section safety data sheet. Everybody here know safety data sheet. I think it's very well-known sheets for in chemical safety, which is sheets filled by information about how to deal safely with the substances, hazardous substances. So it has 16 sections. We will come to these 16 sections by one in the coming slides. Labels, as you can see here, there's labels which is filled with some information like pictograms, flammable materials, and NFPA diamond. regarding the health and flammability and reactivity and some other information. So the labels are giving initial information to the user. The safety data sheet will contain the full information about the material, but the label will give the initial information about this substance. So it is very, very important to have both of them. Okay. Number 3 is signal words like danger and like warning. So danger for the most dangerous material and warning for the less dangerous material. Also has a statement like toxic if it's swallowed, toxic if inhaled, toxic in contact with the skin. Some has a hazard statement will be written in the container. So also you have to take care of this hazard statement. So also precautionary statements like if it's swallowed, rinse mouth, don't induce vomiting. Some precautionary statements will be also listed or put in the chemical bottles or containers. Pictograms, this one which we told that it's standardized by the UN. You can see here in this one flammable oxidizing material, also flammable material, toxic to toxic material, and skull with 2 bones. So each one of these pictograms has certain meaning. So the employees should be aware of all these pictograms. Okay, this red frame with white background and black symbol. Okay, and finally number 7 we have training. So all employees should have undergo training for hazardous chemical substances. You have to have information and they have to know all these 7 elements. So they have to have training for certain days to know the pictograms, to know how to get the information from safety data sheet, and to know these signal words, hazard statement, all these things. The employees should undergo training to know all this information. Employer responsibility, the big responsibility is for the employer is to communicate the information, and the employer responsibility under the HCS is to ensure that labels are on incoming containers and not defaced. Any incoming container, chemical containers, they should be labeled. This label should not be defaced. Another label should not be there over the manufacturer label. So it should be clear and information should be readable. Maintain safety data sheet from shipments. They should receive only shipments with safety data sheet. If shipment received without safety data sheet, they have to contact the manufacturer or download it from the manufacturer website, but they should not receive any shipment without the safety data sheet of this shipment. So they have to have a file, assign somebody to take care of this file, update everything. So they have to maintain safety data sheet for the incoming shipments. Obtain safety data sheet if not received, as we told. Ensure safety data sheets are readily accessible. So safety data sheet file should not be locked in a drawer or put in a place where employees, they don't know. So safety data sheets should be accessible for every employee is dealing with chemicals. Have to know where is the safety data sheet is located and should know how to get the information out of the safety data sheet. Ensure chemical in the workplace are properly labeled, tagged, or marked. Provide information and training to employees, develop and implement and maintain written hazard communication programs. So these are responsibilities for the employer. Okay, so employer should take the initial responsibility and take care of all these things. So also there will be responsibilities for the employees. So to know, to take the training, to apply the knowledge from the training on their work, use the control measures nicely, like LAV, like any engineering control measures should be done nicely. The PPE, they have to take care, clean it, keep it in good place. All these also responsibilities rely on the employees. So employer responsibility, how hazard communication work. So chemical manufacturer and importers classify the hazard of the chemicals they produce or import. The initial responsibility rely on the chemical manufacturer and importers and distributors also. They have to know what kind of chemicals. They have to have the safety data sheet and prepare labels and safety data sheet based on the classification. So the manufacturer is the most one know about the chemicals hazards. So he has to put all the hazard and precaution on the safety data sheet. Chemicals are shipped to employers by chemical manufacturer, importers, or distributors. This is the second stage. So implement the program. All employees receive label containers and safety data sheet with shipped chemicals. Okay, we have to make sure that no shipment will be received without safety data sheet and without proper labeling. All employers must prepare a written hazard communication program, including list of hazardous chemicals in the workplace. So we'll come to the what comes under the hazard communication programs, the items. Employer also must ensure that all containers of hazard chemicals are labeled, safety data sheet are there, workers are trained on program element hazard protective measures, etc. Keep information up to date. So we have to assign somebody to look over these things and update the information whenever needed. Okay, so how hazard communication works? This start from the manufacturer and up to the end user. Okay, so everyone has the responsibility. He has to take care of his part. So finally, we'll have a safe workplace. Requirement for a written program. Okay, there's a requirement for a written program. Develop, implement, and maintain a written hazard communication program. Intent is to ensure compliance with standard in a systematic way that coordinate all elements. So also, it is one of aim of this hazard communication program is to comply with the legal requirements. Okay, so because if the organization violate legal requirements, it will be subjected to punishment from the legal authorities. So one of the aim to adopt the hazard communication program is to comply with the legal requirements or the legislation in the certain country. There will be different legislation. So, but overall, the aim is to also comply with these legal requirements. So we have to develop, implement, and maintain a written hazard communication program. Okay, each company they should have a written program. Component of a written program. Yes, we talk about a written program, but what's contained, what is the components of this written program? First of all, we have to have a list of hazardous chemicals present at work site. We have to check all of the hazardous chemicals present at the work site and have a list of them. This list, if they are big number of chemicals, we can put in groups like organic compounds, inorganic compounds. We can have different classification of these chemicals. But if are they small or few number of chemicals are there, we can put together. But if we have a big number, we can classify them by their chemical properties or by hazard, health hazard or physical hazard. We can choose one of the classifications. Okay, so one of the number one component of the written program is a list of hazardous chemical present at the work site. We have to have all these chemical in a list. Number two is availability of safety data sheets to employees and downstream employers. Okay, these safety data sheets should be available and accessible for the people they want to use the safety data sheet. Labeling of chemicals containers. Each container should has a label, as we told before, that the label will give us initial information about the chemical hazards, properties, and some information, initial information about the chemicals, and the full information we will find in the safety data sheet. Training program regarding hazard of chemical and protective measures. Employees should have a training how to deal with the chemicals. First, we have to give information about the symptoms and illness, injuries we could encounter if we use these chemicals. So this is information. Number two, they have to have instructions, written instructions, accessible written instruction for employees to follow, and they should not rely on their memories. So they have to have a written SOP or job safety analysis. Then we have to develop a method statement for to deal with the chemicals, or what we call this for non-routine jobs. We have to have a permit to work also. All this will be instructions. So first, this is what we call in safety is IITS. IITS is a stand for information, instruction, training, and supervision. Okay, so first the employees, they have to have information about the risk associated with the chemicals, illness, injuries they can encounter if you use these chemicals without protective measures. Then also you have to give them instructions, SOP or method statement, or permit to work. And number three, they have to have a training, actual training, how to deal with the chemicals by their supervisors. And finally, they have to have a supervision if somebody uses chemicals unsafely, the supervisor should correct these unsafe behaviors. Okay. So list of hazardous chemicals. Before going for that, the chemicals will be in the workplace in three phases, like the physical phase of the materials is liquid or solid or gas. Okay. We have the liquid state of solid and gas. The routes of entry of these substances to the body will be by four places. Let me ask you if you can answer in the chat, what are the routes of entry of the chemicals to the body? Can you answer me in the chat? What are the routes of entry for the chemicals to our body? Through what? Mouth, yes. Ingestion, we call this ingestion through our lungs. Respiration or inhalation, yes, ingestion and inhalation. What else? Yes, ingestion and inhalation. Inhalation through skin also, yes. Skin absorption is number 3. And number 4, ingestion, inhalation, and skin absorption. There's one more. Swallowing through mouth, this ingestion. Number 4 is injection. Okay. Number 4 is injection. If somebody with injection in the by syringe, or if somebody touch sharp metal, also we can call this injection. Okay. So the dangerous one, which is the dangerous one of these 4 methods? Which one is the dangerous one? which is the most dangerous one. Huh? Inhalation, yes. Inhalation is the most dangerous way because it is unintentionally people will inhale, do respiration processes, unintentionally people doing that. And from the lung, it will be transferred by blood to all the part of the body. Okay, so the severity of these chemicals, or the injury or the illness caused by these chemicals depend on which factors. In which factors that the injury or ill health severity will depend on which factors. Let me tell you some. The number one is the concentration. Whenever the concentration of the material is high, the injury or the ill health will be more severe. Okay, so the concentration, duration, very good. Concentration and duration. The more duration, the more severity. Okay, what else? The health condition also of the victim, or okay, the bad health will be more affected, and also the age, the children and elder people will be more affected than youth people. Okay. Also, there's something called synergistic effects. Synergistic effects, that if if somebody is inhaling carcinogenic agent or substance, and this employee is smoking. Okay, he's smoking and is inhaling carcinogenic agent in the workplace. The effect will be more than the people that they do not smoke. So this combination of two material will be greater than each one individual. Okay, they will also called synergistic effects. Okay, so list of hazardous chemical use. Number one of this the list of hazardous chemicals, we have to use product identifier. We have to use write the chemical name, product name, common name, or chemical name. Sometimes the trade name will be more famous than the scientific name. So we have to write list name of these chemicals, same as in name we use for safety data sheet and labels, or the trade name. Each one will the well known in the workplace. Okay. Also, you have to have inventory of chemicals. Employer must have available a safety data sheet for each. Okay, an inventory, how much quantities available in the workplace, the location of these chemicals, the maximum storage material should be in the workplace. All these data should be, information should be written there in this program. Cover all chemicals in all forms, whether contained or not. Some chemicals will be in container, and some other chemicals maybe not put in containers. Okay, so all kind of chemicals should be listed, include chemicals in container, pipes, and those generated by work operation. Those in the oil industry, this well known, the VOC. Anybody know what VOC stand for? VOC. VOC stand for what? The people are working in oil industry. stand for what? Anybody know? Volatile organic compounds. Volatile organic compounds. Yes, volatile organic compounds like the gasoline in the petrol station. Gasoline is one of the volatile organic compounds. Volatile organic compounds, if we put some material on the normal temperature in the room and keep it for certain time, you will come back and find nothing. So all will be evaporated. Okay, so volatile organic compounds also could be generated by work operation. So we have to have a volatile VOC detectors on the workplace to know how much the concentration of this VOC generated by our work operations. Okay. Safety data sheet available and accessible for workers, required for all hazardous chemical used. Do not use hazardous chemical if there is no safety data sheet available. A 16 section format. The safety data sheet is some sheets filled by information for our safety, to deal how to deal safely with this material. We will go through these 16 sections quickly in the coming slides. Safety data sheet documentation, designate persons responsible for obtaining and maintaining safety data sheet file. There should be also maybe soft copies, hard copies. Describe how safety data sheets are maintained and how employees can access them. Produce procedures if safety data sheet is not received with first shipment, what do we have to do? All this should be in the program. Okay, the program should have all this information. Describe how safety data sheets are maintained, the procedure if the safety data sheet is not received, you have to contact the supplier. We have to do what? Well, there should be a written procedure. Must have safety data sheet for each chemical. Train workers on safety data sheet format and use. Okay, so the employees should have training how to get information from this safety data sheet, because for the some people maybe it is very difficult to understand because it is scientific language. Some section of this safety data sheet has scientific language, so they have to know what is the meaning of pH, what is the meaning of flash point. There are many terms, especially in the chemical and physical properties of the material. Okay, so for the first aid and firefighting, maybe from the safety orientation, they may know this kind of information. The employees, when they start their job, they will have a safety orientation, they will have firefighting measures, first aid measures, so they will have some information on these topics. But for the chemical and hazard, for the chemical and physical properties, only or the people that go for study science or medicine, they will know this kind of information. Okay, so the 16th section safety data sheet, number 1 is identification. The section 1 will contain what is the chemical formula of this substance, what is the elements, chemical elements contain. This compound will contain maybe calcium, chlor, or any organic compounds. They will be written the scientific name beside the trade name. Okay, also in the identification, we'll find the contact number of the manufacturer, where is it located, and where is the contact number. If in emergency you need some more information, there will be a contact number. Okay, so this is the identification section. Number 2 is hazard identification. If this chemical has certain hazard, like flammable or toxic to reproduction or mutagenic hazard, any kind of hazard contained in this material or risk, it will be in section number 2. Okay, so this chemical is hazardous to or has target organ. This will attack maybe your kidney or your lung. All this information will be in section number 2. Number 3, composition information and on ingredients. How much percentage of this element, how much percentage of the ingredients of the material will be clearly identified on this section number 3. The molecular weight, anything regarding composition will be on section number 3. Number 4, first aid measures. If this material contacted your skin or your eye, or if you swallowed by mistake, what you have to do. Also, it's very important for the employees to know where is the location of the eye wash station and the safety shower. You have to know that what's very, very important for first aid, the safety shower and eye wash location, eye wash. So they have to know their location for instant use when they encounter any problem. Firefighting measures, number 5. If this material catch fire, what kind of extinguisher or what kind of firefighting agent you have to use. Okay, it will be stated on the section number 5. Number 6, accidental release measures. So if this material accidentally released, how to contain the spillage or these things. Also contain the release, it will be written on section number 6. Handling and storage, which temperature you have to store it, and handling, how to move it from here to there by trolley or by forklift. Any information regarding handling the material and storage will be written on section number 7. Number 8, exposure control, personal protection. There's PPE. If you have to use this material, you have to wear your latex gloves, or the mask. What kind of filter you have to be with this? You have to use in that mask, apron, or whatever, what any kind of PPE required to deal with this material. It will be stated in section number 8. Number 9 is physical and chemical properties. This is very, very important, as I told you. So many people, they don't know what the written in this section unless you train them. You told them what is the meaning of flash point and what is the meaning of the pH. If the pH is 1 or 2, and if the pH is 13, 14, if the pH is 8 or 6, what does this means? You have to know that 1 or 2 is for strong acids, and 13, 14 is for strong base, and 7 is neutral, like this. So they have to know the chemical properties, the terms written in this section. Section number 10, stability and reactivity. If this material will react with air, with water, if this material is stable or highly reactive material, it will be stated in the section number 10. Toxicological information about the toxicity of this material. If it is toxic to reproduction, if it is will give cancer, any information about the toxicity of the material will be written in the section number 11. If it's toxic or harmful, many material are very toxic or harmful. The material will be classified like that. So very toxic material is very, very small amount of material is can make severe ill health or death. Okay, this is for the very toxic material. The toxic material produce serious or acute or chronic ill health or death if you have very small or very small dose. Okay, For the harmful material, we need large dose. So it is very toxic, and there's harmful material. So for the very toxic, very small dose is enough to give severe ill health or death. And for the harmful, we need larger dose. Ecological information, disposal consideration, this will be administered by the Ministry of Environmental, Minister of Environment. They will state the ecological information if this material is harmful to or to the aquatic environment or to this airborne contaminant. All this material, all this information will be stated in this section. Disposal information also, consideration, how you have to dispose this material. When disposing, we have to avoid mix with this kind of material. All the safety information will be written on this section. Transport information, also this one administered by the Department of Transportation, how to transport this material. We have to use maybe what kind of containers, what kind of trucks you have to use. Also the truck container specification, there should be a pressure relief valve or any kind of requirements will be listed in this section. 15, regulatory information. Also, when exporting this material, there's some regulatory information will be listed on section number 15. Other information will be listed on section number 16, additional to this previous information. Any other information rather than this 15 section, it will be listed on section number 16. Okay. So what time now? 8:45. GHS system and labels down in section. You can see this pictograms down here. All this which we call GHS standard is a red frame, a white background, and black symbols. This is the UN or the ILO pictograms, which is from 2015 until now. Before, we have, as I told you, there's many standards. One of the famous standard was the British standard, which is has orange background. Whenever you see pictograms with orange background, color backgrounds, this is a British standard which is no more used now. So this example of safety data sheet, how to look like. Section number 1, product and company identification. Section number 2, hazard identification. If this material is flammable, if this material is toxic to reproduction or has ill health hazard or toxic to environment. Okay, so this is the format of the safety data sheet. Labeling. All containers of hazardous material must be labeled. This label is useful for immediate warning. As I told you before, this will give you initial information about these chemicals. A snapshot of hazard and protective information. Also, it will give you a quick idea about the protective information for this chemical. Okay, so the label is very important. We should not use any chemical if it is the container is not labeled. Also, for secondary containers, we have to arrange containers in our workplace. If we are taking material from drum to a small container in our workplace, this secondary container also should be labeled. Okay, so whenever we have, unless we are that amount will be instantly used. Okay, but if the secondary container will be available in the workplace or in the laboratory for certain days, these secondary containers should be labeled also. Okay, so this is very important. notice. Documentation for labeling. Designate person also responsible for labeling compliance. Describe alternative to labeling of stationary process containers. Stationary process containers also tanks, and this one should be labeled. Okay, if you are getting material in bulk, big tankers coming to your workplace, you have certain tanks, tank farm. This tank farm should be, each tank should have label tag that is contain of these tanks. Okay, ensure that all workplace containers are labeled appropriately. Labels included in training, shipping, and workplace containers. Their shipping labels also will come to that one in the coming slides. Procedure for reviewing update workplace label information. We should have a procedure to review these labels frequently. If there's any update, we have to update. If any requirement, we have to update these labels. Okay. These what we call shipping labels: name, address, telephone number, product identifier. What is the name of the chemicals? Signal words like danger, it will be written danger or harmful. This is what we call signal words. Hazard statement also, like highly flammable liquid and vapor may cause liver and kidney damage. This is what we call hazard statement. So we have the name, address, and the product name, and hazard pictograms. Okay, like what's mentioned here before, flammable and toxic to health, and hazard statement and precautionary statement. Keep container tightly closed like this. All this we call precautionary statements. Or supplier identification, what is the batch number, this information will be mentioned there in the label, and supplemental information, expiration date, and these things. Also, this information will be written down in the label. Okay, guys. So this kind of information should be there in the shipping labels. We have to check all the shipment received in our workplace that should have this certain information. So requirements for a workplace label: employers can create own labeling system that work for their workplace employees. They may create certain labels in the workplace. They can add more information in that labels. So, but they should not decrease the information what's in the original label. They can use their own labels for the secondary containers, as I told you. But the information should not be less than what's written by the manufacturer. They can add more from the safety data sheet, add more precautionary statements. They can add more information about working safely with these chemicals, but they should not make it less. Can choose same label required for shipped containers or alternatively labels as long as they provide general information about the hazards. So, and train employees to understand this kind of labels. Okay, so they have a choice to use their own labels in the workplace. This will get benefit of the employees for the secondary containers, and get more information to work safely with these chemicals. Training requirement: train employees on hazardous chemicals in their work area before initial assignment. Before they start any job with these chemicals, they have to know all the information. They have to have IITS information and instruction and training and supervision before starting with dealing with these chemicals. When new hazards are introduced, and for non-routine tasks also. These are the three occasions that we need to train employees for initial assignment. When new hazards are introduced, maybe one company is used certain chemicals and find that there's another chemical is less price, less hazardous, or has different hazards, has a different risk than the previous chemical. So they choose to introduce this new chemical to the workplace. So the employees should get training on how to deal safely with this new chemical. And for non-routine tasks also, employees should get like maintenance. Maintenance will be non-routine task, or for cleaning of some tanks, like this, for non-routine jobs. Okay, mostly cleaning and maintenance will be non-routine jobs. Include what should be included in the training method: observation to determine presence or release of chemical in the workplace. How to observe that the presence of the chemical, maybe it's gas. They have to have a gas detector. Okay, how to use this gas detector? They have to be trained on these methods. Hazard of chemicals, what kind of hazard or what kind of risk associated with the using of this with the use of these certain chemicals. Appropriate protective measures. What kind of protective measures? Is it engineering control measures? Is it administrative control measures? Is it individual control measures, PPE? They have to know all the control measures available for use. Where and how to obtain additional information, from whom. The supervisor should be ready to give any additional information. Okay, guys. So these are the training requirements. Hazard communication labels, types of labels: HCCS shipping labels. There's also HCCS workplace labels. There's NFPA 704 labels. There's HMIS labels. There's DOT shipping labels. HCCS stand for Hazard Communication Standard. Okay, NFPA is the National Fire Protection Association. HMIS stand for Hazardous Material Identification System. DOT stand for Department of Transportation. Okay, guys, so we have many kind of labels. Okay, the first one is hazard communication labels. This is what how it look like. Required elements for HCCS shipping labels: product identifier, signal words, hazard statement, precaution statement, pictograms, name, address, and number. We go through this one before. I think a few slides back we go through this one. Hazard communication labels, HCCS labels, it's almost the same information that written in the hazard communication labels. Examples of required for hazard communication elements: product identifier and pictogram, signal words, hazard statement, precautionary statement, same elements which we mentioned before. Contact information will be in the bottom. Product name will be in the top. Signal words in the middle. Indicates relative levels of severity hazard. Danger is used for more severe hazard and warning for less severe hazard. If it is more severe, we will find danger. If it is less severe, we will find warning. Pictograms, which we call GHS pictograms. Red frame, white background, and black symbol. Hazard communication labels, and this is the pictograms, many kind of pictograms, and what it means. This one is health hazard. The pictograms is someone says like star on his lung place. These pictograms we use for carcinogen, for mutagenicity, reproductive toxicity, respiratory sensitizer, target organ toxicity, aspiration toxicity. Carcinogenic, from the name, it is clear that it will cause cancer. It will induce the growth of malignant tumor. Mutagenicity, this will cause, has effect on the DNA. Mutagenic effect will have, this kind of material will have effect or change on the DNA or the genetic system of the human. Reproductive toxicity, this will cause sterility. People will has a problem in reproductive toxicity, will not get children if they got married. Respiratory sensitizer, like dust. If some people, they have sensitization from dust, silica dust. If they smell silica dust, they will start sneezing. Also by prolonged exposure to the silica dust, we will got occupational asthma. Okay. What is accidental release measure? What is accidental release measures and importance? Sorry, I did not see this one. We can, after we finish this, or before the break, we can go through this accidental release. Okay. Flammable pyrophoric, also pyrophoric compounds. This will get fire if they contact with air. They will get fire. This kind of material, self-heating, emits flammable gas, self-reactive, organic peroxides. All this will be considered as flammable materials. Exclamation mark for irritant and skin and eye, skin sensitizer, acute toxicity, neurotic effects, respiratory tract irritant, hazardous to ozone layer. Hazardous to ozone layers, this mostly the column 7 from the periodical chemical elements. Halogens, chlor, brom, fluor, iode will be hazardous to ozone layer. Gas cylinders, cases under gases under pressure. Oxygen, acetylene, helium. There are many gas cylinders in the workplace for sure. If this gas cylinder valve broken, it will be like a rocket. Did anybody see a video of this gas cylinder valve broken? So also there's a corrosive chemicals like sulfuric acid, concentrated sulfuric acid, and caustic soda, which is a pH is 1 or 2 or 13 or 14. This will be corrosive. It will give damage to the skin tissue. Okay, or also the eye damage. Exploding pumps, explosive, self-reactive, organic peroxides, all this can explode. Also like what happened in Beirut port, as all in Lebanon, you see it's a very big explosion. This kind of chemical will be classified as exploding bomb. Flame over circle, this for oxidizers. This chemical rich with oxygen. This kind of chemicals we have to keep away from flammable materials. Why? Because if there's fire start, this kind of materials will enrich the fire. Okay, environment, aquatic toxicity. Some chemicals is toxic to aquatic environment. Skull and cross bones. This acute toxicity or fatal or toxic. This what kind of material will have this kind of pictograms. Okay. Health hazard, flame, exclamation mark, gas. Example of required HCCS label element, precautionary statement. Also, we talk about that one. Requirement for workplace labels. We told that some workplaces use their own system, same information as labeled from manufacturer or product identifier and words, pictures, symbols, and or combination of the combination thereof may include signs, placards, process sheets, batches, tickets, operation procedure, other written material, any other information we feel that it is has benefit to the user, we can put on that in-house labels. Okay, danger may cause cancer, liver toxin. Okay, MDA, the name of the chemicals, stand for certain chemicals authorized. Personnel only, respirators and protective clothing are required. Some kind of this information. Excuse me. Just I reduce the cooling from my AC. Okay, so the workplace, we can have our own workplace labels. Okay, designed by the employer and give training to employees to understand these in-house labels. Here we have the NFPA and HMIS. The one in the right is NFPA and the one in the left side is HMIS. Okay. Alternative workplace labels permitted for workplace labels must provide at least general information regarding hazard of chemicals, hazard warning, pictograms that conflict with HCS labels element cannot be used. Example, NFPA 704 and HMIS. So these two kinds of labels, they have 4 colors, blue, red, yellow, and white. Okay. For the one blue and red and yellow, they have the same meaning in both kinds. Okay, for the HMIS and NFPA diamond, the blue color is for health, and the red color for the flammability, and the yellow color for reactivity, for both of them. But in HMIS, the white color is referred to personal protective equipment that we have to use, and the NFPA, the white color is for special hazards. Okay, the white color in the NFPA, which is in the right side, for a special kind of hazard that maybe this is radioactive material, or don't keep away from water, W, like, and there's slash on the W that don't keep away from water, or this material will be react with water. Some special notice will be put on this white color. But for HMIS, it is a white color for the personal protection equipment. Clear, guys? Different, they will be numbers for the blue and red and yellow. They will be numbers from 0 to 4. Okay, they will be numbers from 0 to 4. But for the white color, they will be personal protective equipment. They will be letter A, B, or C, and they will be a key to understand what is the meaning of A and B and C. There will be A stand for maybe goggles, B stand for goggles plus apron. They will be the key how to understand these letters. Okay, will be provided by the manufacturer. Okay, what is the meaning of these letters? Each letters contain a single or group of PPE. Okay, guys. So NFPA, overall diamond shape made up of 4 smaller diamonds. Each smaller diamond is a different color. Number of numbers within smaller diamond represent severity of hazard. Okay. Health, the blue one, as we told before, this health hazard. 0 is normal material that pose no health hazard. It has no risk to health. That means 0. 1 is slight hazard. Number 2, moderate hazard. Number 3, extreme. Number 4, deadly hazard. So it's going from 0 to 4. Okay. Somebody chat question. Okay, question we will keep at last. Okay, so it is clear 0 that pose no hazard, and 4 is the utmost hazard, or the most dangerous one. Okay. For the red one, after 0 will not bear. Number 1 flash point above 200 Fahrenheit. Number 2 flash point between 0 to 200. Number 3 flash point below 100 Fahrenheit. Number 4 flash point less than 73. Whenever flash point is less, that means it is more dangerous. That means it is fire hazard is there. All of you familiar with the flash point? All of you familiar with what is the meaning of flash point? Would you please answer me in the chat? Because this is very, very important term. Okay, so the lowest temperature that the material will give vapors that when mixed with the air and we introduce a heat source that will give flash the lowest temperature that the material will give if heated, if this material heated, or at normal some materials give vapors in ambient temperature without heat. Okay, so the lowest temperature that the material give vapors that mixed with air, and when we introduce a heat source, the material will give flash. It will for just very quickly, and it will distinguish. Okay, so red for the flammability, and the yellow for reactivity. 0 normal stable, number 1 slight hazard, number 2 moderate hazard, number 3 extreme hazard, number 4 deadly hazard will be most very reactive material. Okay, so this material we have to take care when we deal with this kind of 4 in this diamond reactive material. Other special hazard, W is slash, reactive to water, keep away from water. OX, that means oxidizer. SA, that means simple asphyxiant. Asphyxiant, that means will suffocate people, or people will die because of no oxygen, or the body cell, the body cell will not get oxygen. Or simple asphyxiant. Simple asphyxiant, and there's complex asphyxiant. Simple asphyxiant, example like CO2. CO2, the density of CO2 is more than the air. So if there's one place, there's CO2 and air, CO2 will be in the bottom and air will be at the top. So the people will not get oxygen if there's more CO2 in the bottom. And complex asphyxiant like carbon monoxide. Simple asphyxiant like carbon dioxide, and complex asphyxiant like carbon monoxide. Okay, so carbon monoxide, this will be complex process. It will get hemoglobin will get carbon monoxide and transfer it to the body cell rather than getting oxygen. Okay, so this is a complex process. Okay, so is it clear now, the NFPA diamond? So this is one example of NFPA diamond, will be 2 in health, and 4 very highly flammable material, 0 non-reactive material, and react with water and give very small risk or moderate risk to health. Okay. HMIS, as we told before, it is similar to NFPA, except in the white color parts. This will be for personal protective equipment. Okay, guys, HMIS stand for hazardous material identification system. Okay, so almost same. HMIS hazard indicators, health, flammability, physical hazard, personal protection, no significant risk, same like, okay. The second space, significant chronic health hazard with if this you find this star in the health, that means it's chronic health hazard. Chronic health hazard, that means the people will encounter a problem in their health by long exposure. Okay, after long exposure, like cancer. Cancer is we got chronic health hazard, carcinogenic material. It's a chronic health hazard because cancer will not be developed by in 1 week or 2 weeks. Need long time to develop. But acute, it will be immediate. Okay, there's acute and chronic. Chronic will take a long time to develop, and acute is immediate effects. Okay, guys, flammability, same like physical hazard, reactivity, personal protective equipment like A, safety glass, B is stand for safety glass plus glove, blah, blah, blah. Each letter has certain personal protective equipment. Okay, ammonium hydroxide like has chronic health effects. 2 also moderate health effect. Flammability 0, that means it's not flammable. Physical hazard 0, that means it is not stable material, it's not reacting. J, that means splash goggles plus gloves plus apron plus dust and vapor respirator. Okay, guys, so DOT shipping containers, marking, labeling, and placarding. Department of Transportation has also they have their own labels and marking and placards. Uses graphic elements on square, on point, placards, or label to identify shipments of hazardous material. Okay, square on points have a background of various colors, where shipping containers is also container used in the workplace. Workers must be made aware of Department of Transportation pictograms. Sometimes the same container will be delivered to the workplace. The tanker will deattach the container and keep it in the workplace. Okay, so after finish, the tanker will come and take the container. So this kind of workplace, they have to have information and knowledge about the Department of Transportation pictograms, but mostly the material will be transferred to tank farm or by drums or this. I mean, rarely the factories are using the same containers, okay, or the same tanker that come from the manufacturer. Department of Transportation classification groups hazard material based on danger posed in transportation. 9 classes. There are 9 classes for Department of Transportation. Class 1 is explosive. Class 2 is gases, explosive like acetylene, helium. Class 2 gases like natural gas, CO2. Flammable liquids is class 3, like acetaldehyde and petroleum ether. Okay, class 4 like flammable solids like activated carbon and metal powder like aluminum powder. Okay, class 5 are oxidizing substances, H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, and bromine and chromic acid. All this will be class 5. Class 6 is poisonous, toxic, and infectious substances like cyanides and pesticides and some of lead compounds and phenols. All these will be class 6. Class 7, radioactive materials. You know that material give radiation like gamma and alpha and beta uranium, and these things will be radioactive materials. Corrosive materials like sulfuric acid and caustic soda. Class 9 is miscellaneous dangerous goods, include environmentally hazardous substance, hazardous waste, and marine pollutants. Okay, this will be class 9. They have 9 classes, Department of Transportation. These are some examples of labels, placards, and marking for the transported hazardous material. Okay, all these are some examples of flammable and oxidizer will be in this form. Okay, but only people that using the same container from the manufacturer, they have to have knowledge of this kind of labels. Other people, they don't no need to have information, or it's not risky to work without have a knowledge with this kind of information, because they will use only the NFPA and HMIS and other kind of labels will be on the containers. But this one for the only people that using the same container from the manufacturer. The OT marking like this, okay, is also some kinds of or some examples of the Department of Transportation marking. Okay. Control strategy is very important to know the hazard and the risk, and to know the control strategy. Okay, we know before the hazard is the chemical or the hazardous substance itself are the hazard. What are the risks? They have many risks, like corrosion, irritation, sensitization, cancer, mutation, toxic to reproduction. All these are risks associated with the hazard. Okay, so we know the hazard, we know the risk. Now we have to know what kind of control measures to be used to avoid or to control this risk. Okay, hazardous material can be used safely in workplace if adequate control strategies are implemented to prevent exposure to those chemicals. Hierarchy of control measures, starting from the more effective to less effective. The more effective in the top will be more cost, but more safety we'll get from these measures, and the ones in the bottom is less effective and also low cost. Okay, so elimination or substitution. First, we have to think about elimination of this hazardous substance. If it is reasonably practicable, we get rid of that substance and substitute it with less hazardous. This will be the most effective way, okay, to seek to eliminate the hazard using such strategies as removal from the workplace or substituting of a safer form of the chemical. Okay, we can use from the beginning safer form of chemical, or substitute the hazardous chemical with less hazardous chemical material. This will be the more effective way. Sometimes we are using a material to activate when we need to make the reaction between two materials, we'll add one material to activate that reaction. Okay, sometimes we can use temperature instead of using that such kind of chemicals. So we can eliminate that use of chemicals and use the other kind of, or change the method by eliminating that one and applying a physical method. Okay, or substitution, like when we substitute the oil-based paints by water-based paints, or oil or organic glue with water-based glue. Okay, so So all this could be kind of substitution. Engineering control seek to control the hazard at the source by using such strategies as total enclosure or ventilation. Okay, we have source of the hazard, and then we have the media that transfers this hazard to the receiver, which is the worker. Okay, so we need to control the hazard from the source when that airborne contaminant emits. We have to control from the source. Okay, then we have the chance to control it from the media. It could be the air that transferring this pollutant to the receiver, to the worker. So we have the chance also to cut the way to the receiver. And finally, we can give the receiver personal protective equipment. But the most efficient way is to control from the source, okay, by using the ventilation or enclosure system. Okay, there's a term that LAV. LAV is local exhaust ventilation. Local exhaust ventilation, as we can see in chemical laboratories, we have a fume hood. This is one kind of local exhaust ventilation. Also for welding, sometimes some people are using local exhaust ventilation to suck the fume from the point of generation. Okay, this is very effective way. Administrative or work practices controls change work practice to reduce or eliminate exposure through work breaks or an rotating work shift. We can use job rotation. If it is a hazardous job, we can use 4 people. If you have 8 hours, we can use 4 people every 2 hours. Instead of using 1 worker for 8 hours, we can use 4 people. This is what we call job rotation. Also, putting labels on the doors, no entry, only authorized people can enter this, like when we use radioactive material or there's biological hazard. So this kind of controls, we are calling it administrative control. And finally, you have personal protective equipment by using gloves, mask, and these goggles, these kind of things. These are personal protective equipment. It's less effective. Why? Because it depends on worker to use this one. But the measures on the top, we call it collective control measures, because if we apply this kind of measures, all people on the workplace will get benefit. But the personal protective equipment, the one who wear the PPE properly, only he will get the benefit. Okay, we finish with our session, and now we can go for the questions. Okay. What is accidental release measures and importance? Is this the first question, or is there a question before that? Should I start from here?
Just let me help you. First, thank you very much for the amazing session. I hope you all enjoyed. Now, Mr. Alamin will answer some questions regarding to the session. The first question is, what is accidental release measure importance?
Okay. First, what is the accidental release? Then we will see what is accidental release measures. Accidental release is unintentional release due to maybe failure on pump or system, any failure in the operation system. Maybe. Okay, so the accidental release measures will be depend on the scenario. What kind of hazard? What is the gas, and what is the risk of exposure to that gas? Maybe it is asphyxiant gas, or it is poisonous gas, like H2S, which is very dangerous gas, especially when it is in high concentration. Okay, so each chemical, maybe it has or class of chemical has its own procedures. Okay, like let us have H2S because it is common in oil industry. If there is accidental release of H2S, okay, so the people will have to mention the air direction, and they have to escape upwind. Okay, this diagonal direction. Okay, diagonal direction. So they have to mention where the air direction, and they have to escape the diagonal direction. And the emergency team, they should wear the proper PPE and SCBA, and they have to close the valve, or to have to do the required job to stop that accidental release. Okay, this is very, very important, very important, the accidental release measure, because this is an emergency. Each organization should have its own emergency evacuation procedure. They have to have a drill on that procedure frequently. So when the actual emergency happens, people will react while something in their memory. Something they have to reference in their mind. Before we did like this in the drill, so now we have to act in the same way. So it is very, very important. We have to have accidental release measures. We have to also, for the spillage, we have to have a spill kit. We have to have trained people to contain that spill. So each material depends on what kind of risk associated with that exposure to that material. We will have we will have the certain procedure. I think is this enough for you? Is it clear, or you need more clarification?
Okay, thank you. And the second question is how to improve workplace hazard communication.
Okay, how to improve workplace hazard communication. First, we have to establish the program. Okay, have to have a list. We have to have the labels, a safety data sheet. We have to have a training for employees, and also with these contractors, this information has to be transferred to the contractor. Improvement will start from assessing our program. How is the list? Our list has the full list of chemicals that we have in our workplace? Always we have to have a full list. Okay. And try to have some feedback from the employees. Do you feel this is a full list, or do you think that any other chemicals that should be included is not included in this list? Okay. Number two, the labels. We have to have inspection tours, that the labels everywhere there's hazardous chemical containers, there's labels fixed there. The labels are not defaced. Okay. Then we'll go for safety data sheets. Safety data sheet will be available for instant use where the people are needed, in storeroom or in laboratory, or in where hazardous chemical used. We have to check, and we have to check this in the audit also, that the safety data sheet is available, and the people in that area, they know how to get the information out of this safety data sheet. Okay, so the assessing also could be through the audit. Okay, we have to can assess. From this assessment, we can do the improvement. Okay, so we have to assess first, and then we have depend on the result of the assessment, we can do the improvement. Also, the training, we have to check whether the people understand the training or not. Okay, someone they should go and ask the people about from where you can get the information about the first aid measure from the safety data sheet, or what is the kind of risk is associated with this chemical you are using. So we have to check whether the people understand the training or not. We have to have some kind of quiz after the training. Okay, for the contractors also, if there's some contractors are dealing with certain chemicals in our work area, the safety officers can go and ask these contractors about the risk associated with these chemicals, and what is the control measures they have in place. If the employees are trained on these control measures, all this, by these processes, we can check and improve our hazard communication program. Okay, so we have to establish the program, and then we have to assess it. Okay, and always try to improve, continuous improvement. Okay.
Okay, good. And here also we have a third question. Does the safety data sheet include any information about hazard from possible reaction with other materials?
Unfortunately, no. This is one of the limitation of the safety data sheet, that is focused only on the material, not if reacted with this material or with this material, what kind of new risk will be there. It's not mentioned in the safety data sheet. This is one of the limitations of the safety data sheet. Yes, I forget to mention this in the session. So this is a very good question. Okay, but some manufacturer, like everybody know this the flash and Clorox, this kind of bleaching material is Clorox, and flash is using for cleaning the bathroom seats. Okay, if you mix these two chemicals, chlor gas will develop, and it's a very asphyxiant gas. So they the manufacturer they are writing clearly, because this will be used by in-house by the ladies, so they don't have that knowledge about the chemicals. So this is one of the most because some ladies think that if they mix two detergent, they will get very good result of mixture. So they are writing clearly in the bottles, don't mix with this kind of solvent, or but in the safety data sheet, unfortunately, no. It's not mentioning any new risk developed by mixing the chemical with other chemicals. In hazard communication labels, does the environment contribute to the selection of standard colors or labels generally? Does the environment contribute to the selection of standard colors or labels? In hazard communication labels, we told that there is a NFPA and HMIS labels. Environments, this mostly are safety labels. This mostly are safety labels. Health, the hazard to health and flammability and reactivity. Environment is not one factor. This environment is not a factor. But in safety data sheets, environmental measures are listed there, but in the labels, no. Only one pictograms is that hazardous to aquatic environment is there. Okay, one pictogram is there. But mostly are safety measures. Okay, clear? Any other question? Irritation and sensitization. Is the difference is clear for these two kind of chemicals? Irritant chemicals cause inflammation, in particular of the mucous membrane. The irritant chemicals like ammonia gas, or if you inhale that, it will give irritation to the air pathway. But sensitizing chemicals can cause allergic response, like silica dust. We develop asthma. I talk about that one in the session, sensitizing chemicals. But irritant chemicals cause inflammation, in particular of the mucous membrane in the throat and the air path. Okay. Another question?
Thank you again, Mr. Alamin, for answering those questions and for the great session.
Thanks a
So,
lot. Yeah.
so this session is recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel. So you can watch it anytime by visiting our channel. Just make sure to follow us to stay updated about our activities through Facebook page or YouTube channel. Make sure to follow our page in order to be updated. Again, thank you for this fruitful session. Thank you all for attending, and goodbye.
Goodbye, and thanks a lot for this opportunity. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.